Hello and welcome to Turf Pride New York City. This is hopefully the first annual Turf July. The camera's facing this way. uh, for those who know, Pride was originally a riot that started off in honor of lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans, which is a real, tangible human being. This is something that exists. Since then, lesbians in particular, gay and bisexual, have been forced teamed with the T and the Q, trans and queer. These are identities. These are not tangible. These are not based in any sort of reality. These are not based in any sort of biological reality. These are a mythological religious belief. These women right here standing behind me, and so many more across the world who are tuning in from places like Australia, Ireland, England, the United Kingdom, all across America from coast to coast, who are tuning in and listening, stand together in solidarity with our lesbian sisters, our gay brothers, our bisexual brothers and sisters, to say enough of the forced teaming with trans and queer identities, which are based on a religious belief, who are doing more harm to the homosexual community than we've seen in a long time.
That's right.
Young lesbian women and girls are mutilating their bodies because they are told that there is something wrong with them if they don't want to wear the dress. That there is something wrong with a little boy who wants to wear flowers in his hair. He must need to be castrated. We say enough. Protect the tomboys. Protect the effeminate boys. Protect children of all, for boys and girls, people of all ages, the freedom to experiment, to figure out who they are without being told that they need to undergo surgeries to remove healthy body parts that will leave lasting scars on them, prevent them from living life, experiencing pleasure to the fullest, from creating the families that they may one day want. That as 12-year-old children, they may not have the foresight to understand that they might want that when they're 30 years old. Give these kids a chance. These women behind me, they stand together in solidarity, arm in arm. In solidarity for our lesbian sisters, our gay brothers, our bisexual brothers and sisters, but particularly lesbian women. The spaces of lesbian women have been ripped out from us. The last lesbian bar was closed down in Philadelphia. The last Philadelphia lesbian bar was closed down 2 years ago. There's plenty of gay bathhouses. There's plenty of gay bars. Why are women being pushed to the side? And the reason why that we want to particularly choose lesbian women as a guest of honor, as who we want to highlight for the first ever Turf Pride, it is because lesbian women have been sounding the alarm on the trans problem for 1960s and 70s, and we didn't listen. We ignored them. We shoved them off to the side well enough. We honor our sisters today. You have been sounding the alarm. You created the gender critical movement. It's not the conservatives. It wasn't Matt Walsh. It was lesbian women who stood up and said, enough. It is time for the day of reckoning to come. They are the ones who deserve this honor. We thank you for all you've done. You are the grandmothers of this movement.
I love it. That's awesome.
And so first up, we want to call our first speaker. Who wants to go first?
As a lesbian New Yorker, I want to talk about the New York City Dyke March. I went to the march back in 2019 with a group of women. One of us was wearing a t-shirt with the definition of lesbian on it, because, it's the Dyke March. Lesbian, adult human female. Sorry, someone texted me. No, not welcome here. Trans rights activists and organizers of the march were all over us immediately when they saw it, stepping on our feet, not letting us walk or exist. They also didn't approve of our banner stating Stormy DeLavery, a black female homosexual, started Stonewall. Personally, I believe Marilyn Fowler started the riot. Look her up. You'll find that she's the only female name on the police report. Regardless, it was a woman. Definitely not Marsha or Sylvia. Well, we were barred, they didn't let us through, and at that point we didn't want to be part of it. Casted out for being transphobes, actual lesbians. Meanwhile, there were signs like, "We'll suck dick for the revolution" present. In the words of Lynn Farley, a lesbian rights activist writer and the woman who coined the term sexual harassment, "You know, I've been in this movement since 1969. I marched in the first Christopher Street Liberation Day March. It's important to remember, and I think this is the time to do it, that it was a woman, a lesbian woman, who refused to get in the paddy wagon at the Stonewall and started the Stonewall riots, and where the movement all began. And it started with lesbians. I also want to say that it was a lesbian group that led the first march up Fifth Avenue on a sunny Sunday afternoon for all the world to see. Now, year after year, since that first march, women have to fight for their place in line. We are not recognized in our own movement. We are invisible. And part of what this rally is all about today is to show ourselves and the world that we've been the leaders of this movement all along, and that, damn it, we're going to stand up and take our own rights into our own hands from now on.
Great.
That was spoken in the 70s. What changed? Nothing's changed. When are women going to finally take our own rights into our own hands? We all know what a lesbian and woman is. Some people forgot, so I'm glad we're all here to remind them. Our bathrooms aren't places for men to jerk off in. Our prisons weren't meant for us to get pregnant in. Our sports weren't meant for mediocre men to compete in. Our dyke marches weren't supposed to center straight men. Thank you.
Before I continue, I want to give a special thanks to VF555. She is the person, she is the reason we're standing here today. Things were kind of getting messed up with this a little bit, but she forged through. So, big, huge shout out and thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcia Matthews, the author of Quandary, The Plight of Women Under Quackery. I'm going to read the table of contents topics. Chapter 1, Biology 101. The immune system is different in women and men. The skeleton, cells, and secondary characteristics are different. Chapter 2, Transitioning of children creates lifelong medical patients. Puberty blockers shut down the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Wrong sex hormone surgery, sterility, amputation of healthy organs, no sexual function, gradual wasting of the body. The suicide myth. In fact, more people commit suicide after transition than if they were left alone. Munchausen's by proxy. Some parents are eager to transition their children. Chapter 4, Wrong Thing. Transgender ideology. Quandary, the plight of women under quackery. Transitioning of children. Oh, I'm going on to chapter 4, Wrong Thing. Transgender ideology has spread throughout media and law. Newspeak has been handed down along with pronouns like Zer. New words have been introduced and we are mandated to say them. You could be doxxed. You could lose your position in the community. You could receive violent threats. You could be pulled from an airplane. Maya Forstater was fired over a tweet and awarded £106,000 for lost wages. You could be hauled in by police for a tweet. You could be no platform from debates, an artist talk, or a public appearance. Eventbrite canceled women's meetings at the last minute. Banks have canceled accounts. Twitter shadow bans gender-critical voices. The mysterious disappearing likes on J.K. Rowling's tweet. Chapter 6, Gender-neutral bathrooms have more crime. Mixed-sex bathrooms are unfair to girls. Changing rooms need to be private. Voyeurs plant cameras to spy on women and create cyber porn. Personal care is a human right for a woman or man to have care from her or his own sex. Refuges, women in domestic violence shelters, rape refuges, and homeless shelters should not be subjected to males, even if they identify as female. Hospital wards where women are unconscious or helpless. Men in women's prisons. Women confined with sex offenders who claim a special identity. It's not our crime. Chapter 8, Follow the Money. Who is financing this and who profits from this? Powerful families fund grants to organizations that discriminate against women. Chapter 9, Betrayal. LGB versus the QWERTY. Mermaids on Stonewall do not represent the LGB, so they form their own group. Mermaids sued the LGBA, and brought scrutiny upon themselves. Now they're being investigated by the Charity Commission. LGB Alliance won the suit, and they are allowed to still be a charity, but it took 2 years of dragging them through a tribunal that was unnecessary because mermaids did not have standing to challenge another charity's status. Chapter 11, Sports. Every sport women have has been colonized. These are just some of the topics in my book, Quandary, The Plight of Women Under Quackery. This book is being updated every day because there's a fresh outrage every day. Women are under siege. There is a war on women. There has been for a long time, but this is the high water mark of the war. Let's hope the tide will turn. We've got to take back our words and our rights and our spaces. Thank you.
I stood in the freezing cold, last November at City Hall here in New York City, and I opened my mouth for the first time. As a woman and as a mother of a trans-identified child, no one was willing to listen to me until that day. Schools, therapists, doctors, former friends, legislators, trans activists, and even family members all just want me to shut up and get with the program. Well, I refuse. Why? Because at my age, I know things. I know that you cannot cut off your sex organs and become the opposite sex any more than you can have surgery to sew on cat ears and a tail and become a cat. I know this. That's why we are Team Reality. I know that men do not belong in the ladies' room, or in women's prisons, shelters, locker rooms, or athletic teams. I know that I was not a birthing parent or a chest feeder. I was certified as a La Leche League leader, and I know what a mother is and how she uses her female body to feed her babies. The official manual that I used as a leader was called The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. Well, I just found out the latest edition to be released next year will be called The Art of Breastfeeding. If the words woman and womanly don't belong in a breastfeeding manual, where do they belong? I know that I gave birth to a girl. Teachers at her high school GSA club filled her head with lies. We are desperately working to keep her off wrong sex hormones and away from surgeons. This delusion is preventing her from living a happy life. She's sad because she can't find a boyfriend. Because yes, she likes men. Well, gee, if you call yourself a boy, straight men won't be interested. And yeah, gay men aren't into you because you're a woman, even though you call yourself a gay man. Finally, I know that kids need their parents, even when they're young adults. This queering of society and all its institutions is about separating children from their parents. Our society used to know these basic natural truths. I will keep on talking until they remember them. I will never shut my mouth and never get with the program.
Hi, I'm here to talk about how I spent Pride this year. I spent every day of June outside of Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health protesting Alan Walker, who wrote this book. Dr. Alan Walker wrote this called A Long Dark Shadow. Quote, minor attracted persons or minor attracted people in their pursuit of dignity. Dr. Walker's referring to pedophiles in their pursuit of dignity. In fact, Dr. Walker believes that pedophiles should be included under the queer umbrella and celebrated just like any other sexuality. Dr. Walker asserts that pedophiles are no different than a real sexuality because she claims that pedophiles know when they're young that they're fixated and that it persists. That same logic could be used to justify a sexuality to plants, to animals, or to dead bodies. It is not a sexuality if the other person involved, which needs to be a person, cannot consent back. That is not a sexuality. It has no place in Pride. There's no P in this acronym under the rainbow at all for pedophiles. and I was there protesting this pedophile advocate. Pedophile apologist really is not a strong enough word because this book is full of pedophile activism, pedophile advocacy. It is blatant. It is not hidden. She quotes 2 different pedophile organizations that she worked with to source the pedophiles that she interviewed for this book. One of the organizations refuses to explicitly condemn sexual relations between adults and children, and that these are the people that she's trusting. She speaks in her intro about the fact that she has promised the pedophiles involved with writing this book that she will not paint them in a bad light, that she'll do their words justice. In fact, the dedication of her book, she wrote her book and dedicated it to, quote, those who accept themselves, those who accept others, or those who accept themselves, those who are working on it, and those who accept others even when it's hard. She's talking about pedophiles. This whole book is about accepting, normalizing, glorifying pedophilia. And I'm here because that's absolutely ridiculous. It's 2023. People forget that NAMBLA and PI, that was the 70s and 80s, and pedophiles didn't go anywhere. They're still here. They're still organizing. They're still active. And people are quieter. They're talking less about it than ever. And I have a huge problem with that, which is why I went to the streets. So I went during Pride to protest this woman, to protest the complete lack of safeguarding in this book. There's not one notion of maybe pedophiles lie. She believes that there's such a thing as a non-offending pedophile. And you want to think this is the point of queer theory, the point of this slippery slope of language. You want to believe, oh, of course, there's good people, good men, who would realize they're pedophiles and then decide, I would never touch a child. But how the hell do you qualify that? How do you ever know? Because the answer is you can't ever know. And that's the premise that this book should start with, that you can't ever know. And the idea that we should just believe pedophiles who pinky promise that they've never touched a kid, the fact that she thinks we should believe them is ridiculous. And so the second part of my speech is closely related to this because it's about grooming of society, queer theory, gender ideology, born and bred in queer theory, which is pedophile activism. It's all about pedophilia. It's all linked to sexuality and depravity, gross sexual depravity, men's public sexual depravity. So another topic very closely related to Dr. Alan Walker is a laughably unserious but seriously unsettling research study promoted by Prostasia, another pedophile advocacy organization that claims that pedophiles have a sexuality that leaves them predisposed to children, being attracted to children, abusing children. This pedophile advocacy organization that claims to be a child protection organization, just like Dr. Alan Walker, was hired by Johns Hopkins University Moore Center for the Prevention of Child Sexual Abuse. They hired a Johns Hopkins University who John Money did all his work with gender ideology starting in Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins University hired a pedophile activist to stop pedophiles. In the same way, Prostasia claims to be a child protection organization. They did this study examining if higher pedophile thought suppression, pedophiles trying not to think about children, if that correlated with lower rates of them trying to seek help. They're trying to argue that the more pedophiles try to not think about children, that it stops them from getting help. In fact, they found that there was no correlation, but they did find a correlation between higher thought suppression and actively avoiding children, which you think that's great, right? Pedophiles who are actively trying to not think about this, actively avoid children more. Not according to the authors. They do not comment on the benefits of pedophiles actively avoiding children, but instead compare pedophiles to, quote, other sexual minority groups. Other sexual minority groups. As if being a pedophile is the same, just like Dr. Walker argues, is the same, is no different than any other sexuality. They conclude in this study that because gays and lesbians do not experience the same type of internalized stigmatization that pedophiles feel, it must mean that it's because pedophiles are more marginalized, rather than accept that pedophilia is not comparable to homosexuality or any sexuality. They go on to theorize that this means pedophiles should be given more acceptance, which by their own research would decrease the amount that pedophiles are trying to thought suppress and also decrease their active avoidance of children. In discussing these findings, the researchers suggest that pedophiles may be experiencing a golem effect. Again, we're here talking about lesbians and gays, bisexuals for Pride, and yet these people who think pedophiles should be included in Pride are waxing lyrical about a golem effect. Wasn't Gollum a murderous a-hole who murdered his best friend the first second he stood something to gain from it? Right. But the golem effect, which is suggesting that a societal rejection can cause someone to become the monster that they are treated as anyway. However, they also propose an alternative suggestion based on their own and others' research that they claim is empirical, saying active avoidance of children represents a defense action. Defense of what, you ask? Surely they must be talking about defending children from the risk of being exposed to a pedophile with self-restraint issues, right? Wrong. The defense mechanisms are designed for two purposes, designated by these people and the pedophiles themselves. One, having their pedophile discovered. So actively avoiding children because they can't help themselves around children. Two, this is what was published in a, quote, peer-reviewed empirical evidence study about why pedophiles actively avoid children. Because, quote, forming a close relationship with a child that could ultimately be lost would be too painful. If it was discovered that they are a pedophile who formed a close friendship with a child. And I want to say, are these people serious? Are they for real? But unfortunately, I've learned all too well, that they are seriously manipulative. The article I'm referring to, the study that I'm referring to, is incredibly reflective of the content of Dr. Walker's work, but it really barely scratches the surface of the content, the hell that's in this book, that normalizes and glorifies pedophilia. This is the modern standard of academic peer-reviewed research about pedophilia. Clearly biased and thinly veiled pedophile activism presented in purposefully misleading language to minimize obvious safeguarding implications. The blatant contradictions between the results of their findings and the conclusions that they draw about those results only benefit one group of people, pedophiles and those who wish to enable them. This study and others like it are touted by one of the largest pedophile advocacy organizations as evidence-based research against harming innocent pedophiles in well-meaning attempts to protect children. This logic is completely inconsistent. It's very closely tied. Again, pedophiles, you can't delineate queer theory from pedophilia. Just like the same breach of logic, the inconsistency of logic of, if gender is not based in sex, if your genitals have nothing to do with your gender, then why is everyone getting gender-affirming surgeries on their genitals?
Good question.
Then if you are not a time-ticking bomb, if you are not a predator just waiting that can't help to restrain themselves from touching children, why do you need strategies to resist offending? It does not make sense. It's asking normal people. It's a threshold asking normal people to ignore their common sense, ignore blatant red flags, your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And when it comes to safeguarding children, why would you ever risk it? There would never be a reason to let that feeling of something is wrong, I should step up, go. Which is why we're out here. We're out here protecting kids, the kids that will grow up to be gay and lesbians. Now they're losing their family, losing their partners, losing their community because of lies and misinformation. Thank you so much for everyone that let me come out. Everyone who showed up, you're all amazing. Thank you to everyone.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh my God. Joy always shuts the fucking house down.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Joy comes with a new topic every time and kills it. So seriously.
I love it.
Look at these brave women, you guys, standing in front of the United Nations. These organizations that were erected to protect us, to defend our rights, to ensure a future for our children, to ensure that we are not preyed upon by nefarious sources, have failed us at every level. They failed us on state levels, governmental levels, and it is now becoming worldwide. From the bottom, ground up. Woo! And thank you to all of our adult human males who have stood up for us, who stand the line, who hold the line for us. We are together. We are united. Those who believe in reality, there is nothing that can separate us. We are together, and it is time from the bottom up that we restore order to the chaos. We're going to tear down Babylon because that's what we're in. We can no longer trust places like the AMA, the American Medical Association, our school districts are training our children to lie to us, and they are socially transitioning children. It's time we say enough.
That's right.
Go next.
It's heated today.
All right, we got BF555. ACL, and for ACLU does hate women, absolutely. And the ACLU, we will be protesting in August in Washington, D.C. August 11th, Washington, D.C. We say the ACLU is no friend to women or children.
That's right.
That's right. Well, I would like to start to say I will add the P. Wait, where's the mic here?
Yeah, you know, and big ups to
Apple. My
Apple.
dead body to the lesbian, gay, bisexual community. You do not need these other letters that have only promoted lies that have nothing to do with homosexuality. I'm here today to take back pride for lesbians, to end the indoctrination of children and the war on women's rights. Most importantly, I'm here to speak the truth about gender ideology and the harms to greater society. I would like to start with this fact that gender ideology was a failed concept created by PDO John Money, who conducted horrific experiments on children, believing that if we cosmetically and hormonally altered their bodies, they would happily live as members of the opposite sex. But the results of the cases of the twin brothers were forced by John Money into incestual role play and ultimately suicide of one of the brothers whose penis was mutilated and that was groomed into believing he was a girl. Now that same theory is now deemed life-saving trans healthcare, while the UN propaganda machine pushes full force to globalize this atrocity. We are here to say no more. Teach children ABCs, not trans, queer, confusion, and disembodiment. Woo! Woo! There's so much more at stake here than Orwell predicted in 1984, when he warned the party that controls language, controls thoughts, and has more powerful. Love is never more powerful than a lie repeated a million times. There's obviously nothing more vital to human experience itself than the sex reality of the human reproduction. But if the government can convince you that men can get pregnant, lesbians are attracted to girl dick, and that biology itself doesn't exist, then they can tell you that up is down, war is peace, and then if you don't comply, it's hate speech. The further society drifts from truth, the more they hate those that speak it. That's why they hate us Terfs. That's right. Well, we are here to correct that and embrace the truth and protect all that is sacred and stop the harms of this vicious, violent movement of misogyny, manipulation, and misinformation that's been media blackmailed through all corporations and global entities to the masses to gain their goals of depopulation, mind control, and destruction of civilization itself. We will not stand for sacrificing our children's healthy bodies in the name of gender-affirming care. No, we won't. We are not here to stand for grouping of children in schools that is geared for limiting thoughts, and the message of questioning authority is hateful, and the belief that others must be respected, even when the claims that they make are disproven with their own eyes. Most of all, we will not tolerate these crimes against humanity that are being sold as trans rights. Men don't give birth, lesbians don't have penises, and there's no such thing as a child born in the wrong body. Thank you.
This right here is a young female. This right here, it does not matter which body parts you cut off your body. It doesn't matter what you feel. Sex is a biological reality. Gender is a religious belief. We say no.
Hi, my name is Amy. I am a woman. How do I know that? My unique female experiences. I bled when I was younger. I orgasmed as a woman. I gestated 2 children. I birthed them. I fed them from my breast, not from my chest. Those are unique to women. Some women have the privilege of doing that. Others cannot, but we are women nonetheless. Unique experiences, our body parts, make us women, something that men can never be. I pose it to you a series of questions. How can a man, woman, boy, or girl be certain they are in the wrong body when they have no actual physical or biological reference to being anyone other than who they are? I ask you, why would you ever take a healthy body and make a lifelong medical patient out of it? There is only one answer. I'll let you come to it. Who is to gain here with this transition and this medicalization? I posit the financial motivations of big pharma, companies, hospitals, the wider medical industry may be at play. Onward. Why would you ever give a predator like a wolf sheep's clothing? Why would you let someone who doesn't have good intentions, or you don't know their intentions, into a restroom, a girls' locker room, women's sports, women's shelters, crisis centers, or prisons? Why make it easy? Why are so many teenagers exchanging their healthy bodies for what will this quest? For what can this quest be achieved? Are young people being confused by the increase of porn, promiscuity, online love bombing, and quick fix solutions to loneliness and normal life struggles? What happens when everyone starts cutting off their body parts? Where does this take us as humans? Are we losing our ability to procreate? Are we in fact facilitating our own extinction? These are big questions. I ask you to think about it. I ask you to ask yourselves to discuss with everyone you know. This is an important conversation for us all. There is something going on here that is a detriment to mankind in a very, very big way.
For those who may know me, may know that I'm the mother of 4 children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. I spent many years of my early life working with mothers, working with women from between the Philippines, I started my journey here in New York, actually, and so now it's come full circle that I've had to come back after helping young women deliver their babies safely. Now to come back to redefine what exactly is a woman. It feels insane. A woman left a comment on my channel not too long ago where she talked about her peak moment. And for those who don't know, peaking is that moment. Peak trans is that moment where all of a sudden it feels like the wool's been lifted off your eyes. And for all of a sudden it's like, what the hell have I been acquiescing to? What have I been agreeing to? My God. And it's like truth after truth starts just piling up. And everything that you've been told and everything that you've been conditioned to believe, suddenly nothing makes sense anymore and it all feels insane. That's peak trans. When the chaos and the insanity that you've been in this haze believing for so long finally reveals itself as the insanity that it is. I had a woman leave a message about what her peak trans moment was. She said she went in with her little girl, her 5-year-old daughter, into a bathroom. Shortly thereafter, a large man entered after them. He identified as trans. What is different between him and any other man going into the men's room?
That's right.
It's that the men going into the men's room have a little more integrity. I would rather be naked in front of a man who will choose to go into the men's room than in front of one who would choose to go into the women's room. Because a man who will go into the men's room respects the rights, dignity, and privacy of women. And I would take my chances
That's
with
right. Yeah. Great job, Brett. That was awesome.
This woman said that a man followed them in, and her little daughter, shaking in voice, looked up to her and said, "Mommy, why is he in here?" And in that moment, she knew, she goes, I know that this is what they want me to do. They want me to turn and look at my daughter, look her in the eye and say, you know what, honey? Some women have penises. Some women are hulking 6'7" tall. Some women have a grip strength that is 100 times any natal woman. And that's okay, because you know what, honey? You just be nice and you say okay. You know what happens when little girls just be nice, say okay? They find themselves going along with things that they don't fully understand. Do you know what happens when we train and condition little girls to look up at grown men and feel that it is the weight of their responsibility to feel empathetic for him. That it is their job to include him. That they aren't to say no. And if he tells them something, to believe them. What if he says, don't tell your mom? Should she say no then? Should we expect a 5-year-old little girl to know the difference between what is something she should go along with a paraphilic male and what is something that she should say no to? It is a massive safeguarding failure. As Vanessa Vokey said, only perverts lie to kids about sex and human anatomy. Only perverts. Who the hell are you if you are going to sit there and tell a child, some women have penises, avert your eyes, don't say no? You know what I decided when I had my first daughter? I started off with 2 sons. I was a boy mom. My job was hard in some ways and a little bit easier in some ways. After I had daughters, I realized I had different things to think about. I had some different things to think about. And my sons, I raised them to be really polite as best as I could. You know, don't be too difficult. You know, be easygoing, be kind. I realized with my daughters, I don't want to raise polite daughters. In fact, I don't think that I can afford to raise a polite daughter.
Right.
I would rather my daughter be alive and safe and know how to say no and know how to say get the fuck away from me when it's time to say get the fuck away from me than to be polite, than to just be kind. We are failing children across this nation and across this world. Especially little girls. Especially little girls. Especially autistic children. Especially neurodivergent children. The most vulnerable amongst us. When we tell them, you don't have the right to say no to the creepy Uncle John who's following you into the bathroom and who wants to fucking readjust his fake tits. Raise your children to be impolite. I'm raising mine to be impolite. We won't just be kind. We won't just acquiesce. And again, once again, in the words of Vanessa Vokey, we will not respect your pronouns. Why? Because pronouns are
Rohypnol. They try to numb your senses. Because if you can't tell it, a man in a dress.
You must make contact lenses. And to all the Terfs worldwide who are watching us, we feel you. We invoke you. The spirit of our grandmothers is with us. You are with us. You are why we stand. We stand on the shoulders of giants today. We will not give up our hard-fought life. We will fight. I will pave this street in blood before I hand my children over to be mutilated by this fucked up, disgusting pedophilic system.
Yes.
No, it won't just be nice.
Yes.
Woo!
Oh my God, I love Bert's
Do we have anybody else? All right, so what we're going to do, so I'm so grateful that we had an opportunity for all these brilliant, courageous, unwavering, adult human females and an adult human. And give it up for Marcus for standing for us and holding the line to our brothers, our fathers, our husbands, our sons, the men who don't want to sit there and watch us get bullied, watch us get pushed, watch us disrespected, and who hold the line in powerful silence, arm in arm with us. We thank you. We see you. We appreciate you. Thank you for stepping down and letting us speak.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
We are, now that we got to have our nice little polite gathering, we do hope to stir up some more shit at our and we will be back in tune soon. So from our Terf Nation to yours, we love you guys. We thank you. And I want to give one more shout out to BF555. We stand with our lesbian sisters. This is the first annual Terf Pride. We will be back year after year and watch this shit snowball.